Alright, we are recording for Chapter 2 of The Search for Spock. We start here with actually following Dr. Christine Chapel, who just... Okay, so Kirk got Bones to sickbay, and together they put him in a cubicle so basically he can sleep it off. Okay, now it does start though with talking about how she's feeling about it all, and it has a line here that I do disapprove of. That she could function at all astonished her. It shouldn't though. I get the whole, just right before this, she felt numb and clumsy. It's like, yeah, because she's still in shock from Spock's death, I'm completely fine with that. There's no issue there. It's this idea that she could function at all astounded her. It's like, she is trained for this, all right? She is in Starfleet. She's not just a nurse or doctor that is on a starship. She is part of Starfleet. She should be so trained that her just falling back to her training should be the norm for her when necessary, such that there's no astonishment. It would be, if anything, gratitude that she's been trained so well that she can just slip to that and let her mind go numb from this. Be able to just be in that shock, but know she is still functioning. But the first line here, Dr. Christine Chapel watched herself function efficiently. It's like just that whole idea of watching yourself do. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but I completely understand it. But it is no, she should be functioning efficiently because that's her training. Anyway, she goes in to see Bones, just to see how he's doing. And partly because he was sweating a lot, and also apparently had a fever. And so when she said just Leonard, you'd like to wake him up because he's unhealthy, need to address that. And this is what happened. Vulcans, he said in a voice much lower than his own, do not love. Chris took an involuntary step backward. How dare you say that to me, she said in a quiet, angry voice. The pain pierced through the numbness to her enclosed, repressed grief and spread like fire through her. She turned, hiding her face in her hands. She could not break down now. The ship had to have a doctor, and McCoy was in no shape to take over. Let me a little more talk about here, but Leonard McCoy's sense of humor was quirky but not cruel. For him to say what he had said to her meant either that something was seriously wrong, or the simplest, if least flattering possibility, that he was still intoxicated. Okay, so we do come back to Chapel later, by the way, but it then does explain in here how I don't like how it was described as the obsession she had with Spock. It's like, I mean, an infatuation, yeah. I think more than Peter had towards Saavik, right? It's like this was probably more genuine for her than that. And that is part of the pain. It does explain, so I don't like describing it as an obsession, but I do like how it does describe here that she had to, I'm putting it a little differently, she had to choose to move on from that, because Vulcans do not love, and so it doesn't matter that she loved him, he could never return that, and Spock has had to tell her that. Like, I'm pretty sure that is actually in the original series. And she had to accept that, and basically that there could be nothing more than just a friendship between them, which wasn't easy. It does, how it is described here is not that it was is that it was difficult, but they got through it, and they were then great friends. And it even goes so far as to point out that has made it even harder, because it is easier, the idea that he is incapable of returning the love for her, returning her love to her. That's one thing, but to know it is never, that possibility is completely removed because he's dead is quite different. Yeah. Accepting Spock's death, she thought, would be an even longer and more difficult task than persuading herself that he never would love her, but herself that he, he never would love her, but that he never could. There we go. Which, by the way, one thought that occurred to me with this that I do kind of like is the possibility that Chapel might be present in this story throughout. She is not in the movie, which could just be Majel Barrett didn't want to be in it, wasn't available to be in it, don't know. Could also just been that, well, we got enough with the bridge crew, we don't need another person joining in on this. But hey, it's a book. I mean, it's like another character is just another name to write in. It's not so difficult. So yeah, I do kind of hope so, because I think that would be very fitting and very appropriate. Saavik woke up with a start because she thought she heard him speaking. And she even does say aloud, not too loud, but she does say, "But I'm not a Vulcan, you said to me," and then she stopped, realizing he's not here, that there's no way he was talking to me. But she doesn't say it too loudly because she doesn't wake up David. Yeah, but Spock's voice had seemed so real. Okay. Next, we get to meet the mercenaries, who still, we don't have all the details yet. But this is, in the movie, these are the mercenaries who are, it's their ship that's carrying Valkyris, who gives the information on Genesis over to Krug, I think is the name of the Christopher Lloyd Klingon. I think it's Krug. We'll find out. But yeah, so we are hanging out with these mercenaries for now, especially Ferrandal, who is apparently not a primate. She in fact looks down on them, and she is apparently somewhat resembling a cat. Not entirely sure, but she does have paws and claws, although she apparently can stretch out fingers to make hands. And it's... I'm just trying to think. She doesn't necessarily get along too well with her crewmates. She just has a unfortunate personality in that regard, is how I would interpret this. You know, fairly combative and such, but at the same time, like, she actually tackles one dude who they would just kind of teasing her a little bit in a more insulting manner, you know, not playful. I mean, somewhat playful, and she does jump on him to attack him. But after, you know, that's broken up, I think dude does more or less apologize while, you know, her claws and teeth are at his neck, but still, you know, apologizes, and so when getting up, she extends her arm to help him come up. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is probably just how she is. A little bit hot-tempered, but everybody knows it. She knows it too. So they get along. It's a functional relationship, if not a healthy friendship. So we do learn a bit more, like how the captain there, she looks down on because he's only captain because he owns the ship. He's in fact incompetent at everything there. They are outside of any claimed space, which seems unlikely, but in any case, they're outside of that, so there's no, like, Starfleet around to protect them, which makes it dangerous, and also they're just moving around randomly, it seems, because that's what their passenger Valkyris, who we don't meet just yet, we meet a little later, is ordering them to do. It's like, okay, but the captain knows, she doesn't. Ferrandal doesn't. No, for certain, but the rumor is at least that it's a big paycheck. Okay. So, next we get, and hang on, you need to check. Okay. I need to check that I'm not skipping over notes. Saavik is already on the bridge, doing a duty. David comes up, and good morning, David, Kirk said. And then there's a little bit here about he's still trying to figure out the whole "that's my dad" kind of thing. And, you know, even wonders a little bit, you know, what his life would have been like if he had known Kirk was his father. He found some reason to respect the Starfleet officer. Affection would take longer. Kirk responded to David's unease. How'd you feel about calling me Jim? Okay, I guess. Kirk paused for a moment, then turned away again. David realized he had hurt the Admiral's feelings with his lukewarm response. "This is going to take some getting used to," he said. "Yes," Kirk said. "For me too. We need to talk about it in private." So, I don't think it's necessary. Well, I don't know. I wish it could have been written a little differently. David realized he had hurt the Admiral's feelings. It's like, yeah, but it should be a very, very, very shallow hurt, where it's like, because okay, I guess, and it is oh, why don't you call me Jim? I'm like, he's making an offer, and something that it's not. There aren't necessarily many people that call him Jim. All right, I'm not even sure if Uhura ever does, or Sulu or Chekhov. Bones, Spock, do. Does Scotty? Scotty maybe, but it's very rare. For those that are his friends who are also his comrades. Carol obviously gets to. So Dave getting to do it, and it's like it is kind of significant there, because you are saying, hey, yes, this is my name that you can use. You are, to a degree, handing over your name. But it still is it's an awkward situation, so I don't think he should be hurt. It would be more of a, tried and that failed. Oh, yeah, I know. We're still figuring it out. Don't worry. So, yeah, just maybe written a little differently. But yeah, the whole, we need to talk about it in private. Yeah. And it would probably be an ongoing conversation as well. It's like, it's might still be yeah, I know I can call you Jim. It might stick to Kirk or Admiral for a while yet, though. I mean, just, it's going to take a while to work that in. So they have returned to Regular 1, and does describe here, so my understanding from the previous story is correct. The planetoid's interior had been turned into an entire new inside-out world, one with an ecosystem designed from scratch by Carol Marcus's team. It's like, okay, good. Because I tried to remember, even when, I was putting in the notes and all that and doing the web, it's like, that's what they describe. It's a stupid idea, though, to have an inside-out world. It's really stupid. But I'm pretty sure that is what was described. It's like, yes, that is exactly what was described. It's stupid, but it is what was described. I'm sorry, it is stupid. What they show in the Genesis, what they show of the Genesis cave in the movie makes more sense, where it is a much smaller, more self-contained thing that's just under the surface. That is far more reasonable. Because, it's also, okay, fine, you've got a shell that's a planet, and the variable star in the center, that none of that is possible, but regardless, you do that. What happens if it gets a little off from where the star is? The star is going to collapse it down. I'm saying you cannot do this. Anyway, they also see the space lab there and the Grissom matching its orbit. So this is the science vessel that we do see in the movie. He had called it, Space Lab, home. Now it felt alien and threatening. If hauntings were possible, it must be haunted. On Space Lab, no one was left alive. The bodies of the people Khan had murdered lay waiting to be returned to Earth and to their graves. Okay. So, the captain of the Grissom, Entebon, JT Entebon. Wait. Let me just check. JT, I remember. Esteban, sorry. I was putting an N instead of an S. Esteban. He beams over because it's like, Kirk, we gotta talk. Okay, what about? I also need to talk to Dr. Marcus. You can't give me a hint. Nope. Be easier just to say it once. Okay. And he and these two do know each other somewhat, not necessarily very well, but they are familiar. And they do have some chit-chat. A subspace transmission just came through, made all the news services. Magellan is in Andromeda. It just completed the first close-range observation of a supernova. That's very impressive, Jim said, and for all his offhandedness, he was impressed. Andromeda, another galaxy, millions and millions of light years away. A different ship with a different crew and a different commander had reached it first. He made a mental note to tell Mr. Sulu the news of Magellan, for Sulu and the Galaxy ship's captain, Mandela Flynn, had been the closest of friends for a long time. So this was when they were in the shuttle coming up from Earth to the Enterprise back in Wrath of Khan. Sulu and Kirk had talked about this person, this Mandela Flynn, as well as the Magellan, the ship she had just been given. So this is neat, and well, here, let me finish reading the next portion as well. That's like right underneath it. I said Magellan is a bit of a technological trick. It's too small to do anything but quick and dirty scouting missions. And if they encounter hostiles, what can they do but turn tail and run? No doubt you're right, Jim said. He tried to imagine something that might cause Mandela Flynn to turn tail and run. He failed. No, it's Excelsior that's the wave of the future, JT said. So it's like, okay, now we're getting the name drop of Excelsior. Okay, so I'm wondering if that's part of what's going on here. I could even see it being that for Wrath of Khan, the Galaxy class was intended to be what the Excelsior class is now in a Search for Spock, but that they dropped that because maybe it was just we want to go with Excelsior. We want the name Excelsior, not Galaxy, Excelsior. Very real. So it's like, okay, we're going to make the Galaxy class a smaller thing and have it do this stuff, but just stepping back, this is lore breaking technically in multiple ways. The idea that they already have a ship that has crossed millions and millions of light years to reach another galaxy, because that means that they would be able to freely explore the whole of the Milky Way, which is only about 120 to 150 light years across, so orders of magnitude less. Yeah, no, you got problems there. Plus, there's the whole, in the original series, there's the concept of a barrier around the Milky Way that typically prevents ships from crossing. It is possible to make that happen, but it's very difficult. So yeah, this is, it's a bit of a problem. Yeah. Okay. But as I said, I think it is just to bringing up the Galaxy Classic again is kind of just to serve as a bridge to talk about Excelsior. I don't really know what more to say other than it is lore breaking, but I mean, was it the last video or was it a different one? It was talking about how, no, it was the last one, how the novelizations are a lesser level of canon than the movies are. But even then, to a degree, like, this may sound weird, but I think I've explained before. Even the original series, in some ways, to me, I consider lesser canon than the movies, these movies, and the 90s TV shows. And the reason I can explain that, the original series was created to be a television show. The movies and the 90s era shows were made to be Star Trek. So they had a greater interest in maintaining a coherent, consistent canon there, whereas in the original series they were just making it up without the long-term implications of certain things. They could just do that, and it wasn't a problem because it wasn't. They didn't need to worry about it then. But that is, like, yes, there are things in the original series that you do have to set aside because they do break the canon that is then established with the movies and the 90s TV shows. For example, on multiple occasions, they have the Enterprise travel at such a high speed that they do, in fact, cross the galaxy in a matter of hours. And some of it is just done because somebody wants it to happen. Like in Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, they end up crossing to, it was Charon is what they called the planet. That was described as being on the edge of the galaxy. And it's like it would take us, like weeks or something to reach there, and they technically arrive within like days or hours even. I mean, it's ridiculous. And why? Because literally Frank Gorshin is standing there willing it to happen. You then need to have when you get to TNG, that no, that basically the Federation is only within the Alpha Quadrant and is not really explored too much beyond that. Some into Beta, but that's dominated by the Romulans, who don't really want them there. A little bit of Gamma, potentially, but not far enough to reach the Dominion. Unsure, and then you can't really be certain about what's up with the Delta Quadrant. Which Alpha, Beta, Gamma, so Delta is an angle over there. But technically, according to Voyager, there was at least one boat. I don't. The Raven was like much bigger than Runabout, but not like a full-size starship, and that's what Seven of Nine's parents were on, and she was on as well when they went into the Delta Quadrant, encountered the Borg, and were taken. But it's... I got issues with Voyager, and it's like, I'm still kind of okay with just being like, yeah, the Federation's basically not actually been in the Delta Quadrant, but still, it's like, you know, even quadrant crossing capabilities is impressive there, whereas here it's like, we just went to another galaxy. It's like, and can receive a subspace transmission. I mean, that also breaks Voyager lore, because if they can get that, then surely they could have had live transmission with Voyager throughout the whole of that show, not needing the... Crap, I don't remember what they were called, if they had a specific name. But the black hole-powered relays that the Hirogen were at least using, I don't remember if it is accepted that they did build them, but that you see first in the episode with Prometheus, which was a season opener, as I recall, until that network was destroyed, and then the stuff with Barclay, I don't remember the name of the array he was using for that, but yeah. But this, now we can just communicate with other galaxies. It's cool. Alright, so yeah, finally, they get where they're going, the officers' lounge. So Kirk is there, Esteban is there, and he had asked, hey, I need Dr. Marcus here, and so Kirk had called up to her and asked, send Dr. Marcus. And so in walk both Carol and David, which confuses Esteban because he didn't realize that there were two of them. And so he's like, I'm only here to talk to Carol. Fine. David, this is sensitive information. I only expected Dr. Marcus Sr. I can take a hint, and David intends to leave, and Kirk is like, David? And Carol, David, wait. David hesitated, then glanced back. David is a full member of the Genesis team, Captain Esteban, Carol said. He and I are the only surviving principal investigators. Anything you have to say about Genesis, you must say to him as well as to me. Okay, now there is some more here, but I do want to pause for just a moment. Like, I'm only halfway through the highlight at the top. How does he not know this? It's like he's been assigned to deal with the aftermath of Wrath of Khan and the Genesis world being made. That's his assignment, but he doesn't know the makeup of the team. He only knows, Dr. Carol Marcus was in charge of it. Okay, that's all I need to know. It's like, don't you want to know who was working with her? Nah, that doesn't matter. It's like, how does that matter? Some of them just died, for one thing. One is still alive as well. It's like, I don't need to know. But it's also, there are more. That's the funny thing, is technically there are more. Because even in the movie it is mentioned that a lot of them had gone on vacation. Now, a lot of it would have been the Space Lab maintenance crew. But there could have also been more scientists as well. I'm okay with the idea that they are just gone now, that they're not returning. I'm kind of okay with that, but technically there are more. Or at least there can be more. But anyway, continuing. So yeah. Anything you have to say about Genesis, you must say to him as well as to me. First thing I have to say is I wish you'd called it something else. Something else, Esteban said. I don't understand what you mean. It's too late now, but it wasn't the wisest move you could have made in terms of PR. Never mind that for the moment, Dr. Marcus, he addressed David this time. I apologize for my bad manners. Please come sit down with the rest of us. We have a great deal to talk over. It's like, dude, he should know. So it's like, this shouldn't be happening. I mean, there was reason already for David not to like the guy, which I'm going to get to shortly. I just want to quickly check here. Okay. I don't think I missed anything. Yeah, just a little bit with Kirk mentioning that JT is uncomfortable, and it's like, okay, I've known this guy. He's been in some wild situations and been completely in control, completely level-headed. He's uncomfortable now. What the hell's going on? This is not good. Yeah, the news of the Genesis effect created, shall we say, a sensation. Of course it did, David said. That's sort of the point, isn't it? We've made possible the elimination of poverty. We've made the reasons for war completely untenable. You've created a device that could destroy the galaxy. That's what our adversaries perceive, not universal peace and plenty. They have demanded multilateral parity. You mean they want Genesis 2, Carol said? Precisely. Why don't you give it to them, David said. Yeah. David continues to be an idiot. And where is it? Somewhere there's even a line that, Carol references. Yeah, Carol was touched by David's naivete. I'll get to that a little later, but it's like, he's a moron. It's also funny. We can finally end poverty. Well, technically, they try to argue that Star Trek already is without money. It's like, nope. It always has had money. It is one of those things. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Star Trek has money whenever the writers feel that it should be there, and then it doesn't have money whenever the writers feel that it shouldn't be there. It is completely nonsensical that there isn't money. Grand scheme of things, nonsensical. But it's like, oh yeah, we want to make the joke that they don't have money. It's like, they do. Excuse me. So, for example, I'm okay with the idea that Earth is developed enough, has enough technology such that money is no longer that needed. However, it still would exist in other ways. For example, in deep space, competition for resources still is still likely to be a real thing, depending on what the resources are. Some less so, some more so. And so, yes, money would help because it's yes, I prioritize this commodity enough that I will spend more of this resource I have, money, to acquire it. But it's also like in Deep Space Nine, there's a mention that while Sisko was in the academy, he would use his transporter credits to come home every weekend. Okay? Transporter credits, it implies he has a limited number of them, which means it is a currency. There is an economy there. It might not be money, but it is still an economy there. So, yeah, it's like, no, there absolutely would still be money. It might not be money in the common sense today. It might be some other form, like specialized credits, but still would exist. Why did I get off on that? Oh, yeah, that's right. The idea of ending poverty and also ending war with this. It's like, nope. And it also does remind me of something from history that is kind of related. So, the likely dominant plan, politically dominant plan at the time prior to the Civil War, for what to do with the slaves, was actually to basically just give them colonies, to not return them to Africa. They didn't feel there was a need for that, though if they wanted to go, sure. And we did try this twice, I think, where there were spots where it's like, you're free, and you can go there. Now, the reason for this was there was going to be animosity on both sides, in both directions. That there would be animosity from the slaves towards the slave owners, and also the slave owners back towards the slaves. So the hope was, you separate, let things develop without slavery, and hopefully the antagonism would die out through that, and that then can come back together without without the issues. Civil War obviously changed a lot of that because it basically forced the issue much earlier than just a trying to. Basically, the hope was to turn the culture so against slavery that everyone would just give up slaves because it was just wrong. Which, I mean, it always was wrong, but it's like to just get the cultural movement to achieve it, as opposed to it's now illegal, you're going to be punished if you try this and all that. Because that just breeds issues, essentially, was their concern. So in a way, I suspect that's kind of what David is thinking here, that it's like, oh, well, if everyone can just have a planet that they can be on, then there's no reason to war over the resources here. It's like, yeah, but what about the people that don't want to go? What about the people that is like what they have here they want? Like, imagine the scenario of, okay, these slaves are freed, but they want to keep the plantation they've been working on. They'd rather the owner leave. That is something that could be argued is appropriate. So now who goes to this new Genesis world, David? Is it the owner who maybe has the skills, but if alone doesn't have the manpower to colonize? Or is it the slaves who would have the manpower to do so, but have this claim that, hey, we work the land, shouldn't we get to stay here? Yeah, it's... And it comes up more so later, the whole just, there are also just evil people out there. We also learned that JT doesn't have the quickest sense of humor. Because David is like, yes, we should just give it to everyone. And JT and the Federation doesn't really like that. My dear boy, we can't give it to anyone else. That would be too dangerous. The Federation is the only organization with the wisdom to decide on its use, Carol said dryly. I'm glad you understand Starfleet's, the Federation's position, Dr. Marcus, JT said, missing the irony the same way he always missed jokes. Okay, so it was Carol, not David. But it still is. Yeah, it's an issue. Carol does say that she understands it all right, she just doesn't accept it. And then David reverts to how we saw him in Wrath of Khan, earlier on in Wrath of Khan. I knew it. You just can't keep your hands off any discovery, can you? You have to grab it and hoard it and twist it until you can figure out a way to use it for destruction. David Relaxstrom said. We would hardly have to do much figuring now, would we? Esteban said. The evidence for the destructive power of Genesis is its first deployment. It completely recreated the substance of the Mutara Nebula, a volume of space some 100 astronomical units in radiance. It destroyed Reliant and all the people on board. It nearly destroyed the Enterprise, and did cause the death of, indirectly, Jim Kirk snapped, we were involved in hostilities because of Genesis. Not entirely. It's just, I'm just trying to remember where it was. Is it right? Well, I'll get to it anyway. But yeah, so I do appreciate this. The whole he's calling out to David's face, just like McCoy's first reaction to Genesis was. It is a weapon, dude. Why are you pretending it's not? It has always been a weapon. The very function that you're talking about is that of destruction first. Yes, we then get creation, but destruction first. But I also appreciate this, that space some 100 astronomical units in radius. In radius, okay? So, remember one of the issues I got with the motion picture novelization? And the whole Vidra's cloud was 82 AU across? Which is like, I mean, technically I don't have an issue with it being that big because it was totally irrelevant. I mean, as it was entering the solar system, which, as far as the orbits of the planets are concerned, 82 AU is wider than that. But the cloud dissipated, so it's like, okay, so it actually becomes irrelevant. That's... I'd said, if it was actually how it traveled at faster than the speed of light, if that's how its warp drive worked, okay, that would make sense. Never explained, but anyhow. But that was diameter of 82. This is radius of 100. So it's a little bit bigger and doubled. And that's what Genesis wrecked. It's like, holy shit. Because, I mean, just means that the Genesis torpedo would have been able to destroy V'ger. That's how powerful Genesis is. Holy shit. Because, I mean, even with V'ger, it was just a cloud that was emanating. This is hey, we're going to take everything in this space and do stuff to it. It's like, jeez. And there's also, Carol tries arguing the device was never meant in any form to go off inside a ship. And was also never designed to go off inside a nebula. But that's precisely my point, Doctor. After all that's happened, how can you argue that the device cannot be an instrument of terrorism? But if everybody has it, there isn't any need for terrorism, David said. Carol was touched by David's naivete. Jim was surprised by it, and JT thought he was being deliberately, perhaps maliciously, dense. Your discovery may eliminate poverty, but it will hardly change the nature of sentient beings. It won't eliminate greed or lust for power or simple error. And it most certainly won't eliminate ideology. The drive to convert people's minds and hearts has caused more grief, more suffering, more loss of life than any desire for property, be it riches or even the necessities of survival. Funny thing, that's actually not true, but no, I have seen the claim. I should maybe try to look into it myself. But I've seen at least the claim that when people have researched the history of what started wars, actually, like 95 times out of 100, it is over property. The idea of religious wars, yes, those do happen where it is triggered by religious extremism. But no, that is the outlier. The far more common reason is land and resources. So it's... Sorry, I just don't want that lie repeated. Okay, there was somewhere, I guess I didn't highlight it, that, oh yeah, here it was. That was different, David said. Khan wanted it for revenge. Revenge against you. Okay, yeah. David, Jim said. We didn't just go through the last few days so we could turn Genesis over to an enemy power. Your friends didn't die resisting Khan so you could hand over the discovery to the next person who demanded it. That was different. Khan wanted it for revenge against you. Yeah. So... he's an idiot. He's like that naivete of his, where it's like, well, you know, Khan is the outlier. Well, his wanting revenge on Kirk, yeah, sure, that's the outlier. But you still got, you know, the Klingon Empire and the Romulans that would just do this for fun. I mean, he's actually kind of funny. It's like, imagine him imagine Saavik being here, and just, I could see her just like pulling David aside and be like, you don't understand, David. The Romulan, like, I could legit see Saavik, who suffered from the Romulans, even being like, David, if you gave me 100 of these, I would use them to eliminate the Romulans. I would not use them to give the Romulans. Okay? It's like, you need to understand, their evil is so great. Their cruelty is so great. Their tyranny is so great. If they had one of these, they will kill people because they enjoy doing so. It's like, that maybe that will come up later. But it's like, David, you really do not understand people. Alright, David gets all upset. He eventually leaves. And then JT's like, what? Why do we even start talking about this stuff? I'm here for a different reason. What I asked you here to tell you is that Grissom has been ordered to the Mutara sector to make a complete survey of the Genesis world. We can hardly discuss it with our allies or with our adversaries, unless we know more about the effect and its consequences. Dr. Marcus, I've been directed to transfer you to my ship. What? Carol said. Obviously, we need you to supervise the observations. Forget it, Carol said. And it gets explained that, I mean, it's partially just the whole what do you think you're doing ordering me around? I'm not part of Starfleet. She doesn't say it, but it's like, I just refuse, and you can't make me. Um, but there's also she wants to take the bodies home and see their families. Um, yeah, and there's even the question: how did Starfleet let the families know? Did you send telegrams? Which technically they could not have yet, just because it is mentioned later that technically the bodies have not been identified yet, which would need to have happened prior to notification. It's also weird that so much information has already been sent back. But anyway, yeah. So she does not want to go. We now get back to the mercenaries, specifically Valkyris. So in the movie, it is very implied she is Klingon. I'm not sure from this because there is a mention. Okay, so the whole reason she's taking this mission on to get the Genesis data and turn that over is she is apparently the head of a house, head of a family that has fallen on very hard times, and she needs the money to restore its fortune and its honor. In part because, yeah, where is it in here? Well, hey, Kosin, her brother, had never forgiven their family for choosing Valkyris rather than him to lead them. In his despair and envy, he set out to prove how spectacularly correct the family had been to overlook him. He reneged on all the vows that he had made when he came of age. He put aside his veil and showed his face to the world. Maybe that's metaphorical, maybe it's not. I'm unsure. He addicted himself to pleasure, and he showed no desire to change. Valkyris offered him the opportunity to return to the family 3 times, and even a 4th, though the 4th offer strained her sense of aesthetics. Not only did he refuse, he dared to break her own word and join him. He dared her to break her own word and join. So, the reference to the veil, that maybe that's literal, that they are supposed to be covering their faces. I could believe that Star Trek would have a species that's part of their culture. So I got no issue with that. I can't complain with that. But is this literal or is this metaphorical? There's also, it's stating that she is leading the house, which this is at the time. Now let's assume that it is the Klingon culture. By the time of Deep Space Nine, it is 2 things are stated. One is that women are not allowed to lead their houses. That's the whole House of Quark episode, right? And it's technically a little bit more that there are ways they can happen, but it's very much no. All these conditions must be met. But there's also with Martok, it is spoken of that it's basically explained that for the houses which are led by a warrior, when he's off, and even when he's there, it is their wife that actually runs the house. Which is actually, I want to say, how traditionally families worked, where the housewife, the house was hers. And all the management in there was for her. And this would also be the case for, like, people with castles or palaces, technically, that, yes, it is the wife that managed all of that. That everything, the husband's role going outside was to basically bring the funds in to support the household that she would then run. That is the more so traditional view and traditional role of the housewife. And basically, yeah, that's kind of how the Klingons were as well. The wives didn't necessarily have direct political power, but certainly had power over their husbands. And it's like they did run the households. So yeah, but here it's saying that no, she was in fact head of the family. So if this is supposed to be Klingon, then that does mean that they kind of moved away from it for TNG and D9, then brought back. Although also with the House of Duras, Lucer and Bator were apparently the heads of it. But then it was also the head I actually don't remember if we ever got Duras's first name, who had been the head of it until Worf killed him. But Luthor and B'Etor would have been in charge of it then, or at least they still had wealth, so I'm assuming that it was the house's wealth. But then later we do get that Duras apparently had a son, who technically then rose to be the head of the house. But yeah, it's I am not certain that Valkyrie is Klingon. Maybe it is, maybe she is, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. So now we're back to the bridge where Saavik is working, and as she's working, she's also just letting her mind wander, thinking on Spock. You must find your own path, he had said. The wisdom of his words impressed her. He had told her she might find herself considering possibilities that she knew he would not approve. She should not, he said, dismiss them on that criterion alone. Instead, she should remain open to them. The path she had chosen last night, with David, led into the unexplored regions of her Romulan heritage. Spock would most certainly not have encouraged such a journey. For that reason, Saavik found even more cause to admire his insight into her character and his own. And I wanted to highlight that because, yes, I was trying to stress that point at times, not necessarily in this specific way, but that Spock, despite saying he doesn't know these things, he doesn't have this understanding, it's like he's actually very insightful and does seem to have a better understanding of things than even he admits to. Yeah, I would also, again, this is the whole, technically the original series doesn't always seem to align with the canon. The canon of later on, that the whole Vulcans do not love. Yeah, they do. Journey to Babel, the interactions between Amanda and Sarek, you can tell that there is a love that Sarek has for Amanda, a human wife, which it makes no sense. Like, logic should actually prevent them from getting married. Because I don't see how an aspect of Ponfar is a telepathic link. Humans aren't telepathic, so that it is unreasonable that she could serve as his mate, at least for the purposes of satisfying Ponfar. So, not completely at least, because it's like in Amok Time, what's her name? That is the to-be Spock's bride was aware, because the telepathic link means that when he entered Ponfar, she could tell. She was aware, despite the light years apart. Amanda couldn't possibly have satisfied that, but is still, as Sarek does love Amanda. So, yes, Vulcans can in fact love. So some of this, it does annoy me, but it's the whole they tried to move it into being, no, it's just, this is how we're doing it now. I disagree, but yeah. Okay, there's also something here that I think I may have made a note on, but I didn't highlight it. So, JT is brought to the bridge by Kirk, because JT's got a problem. And Kirk's like, hey, Saavik, Grissom needs somebody who's competent with science and has actually seen that thing out there for him. Want to be transferred over? And, well, I need a volunteer to transfer to Grissom. She's like, aye, sir. Okay, so that's how Saavik gets there. Yeah, the words tasted bitter. She turned back to her console. She was thinking about David, and she thought about David now, because it's also like, I'm breaking up with him, apparently, because she has her duty. But, I mean, Kale doesn't want to go on to the Grissom. That makes sense. But it is still, David technically is equally qualified to serve that role. So I could see it being Saavik is going to go and there being some tension, some conflict there, but it is also David not wanting to go would just be, well, I don't want to go. Versus Kale being like, no, I have a responsibility to my people that died. I need to bring their bodies back. So that is different. So yes, it will be interesting to see how we get to David also going onto the Grissom. We'll see. And I'm looking forward to it. All right. Okay. So now we're back to sickbay where McCoy has woken up. Chapel comes in, is looking and say, "All right, fever's broken. You're not sweating, so that's good." But she does still, because he has no memory of what happened, and does apologize to her for what had been said, and it is mentioned. Oh no, it isn't here. Crap! It is mentioned that basically it even sounded like Spock's voice to her, which really messed with her. Um, but anyway, she turned on the sensors to look and say, "Okay, everything's looking fine." His body chemistry showed no evidence of the metabolic breakdown products of alcohol. But if he had not been drunk last night, what had affected him? So we're getting the little things saying that something is off with Bones, and that's one of them. But it's also, like I said, he never actually drank. And I do wonder if that is an effect from Spock's psyche being there and saying, well, I don't drink, so you don't get to drink either. Um, but he's still not really up for it. And Chapel mentions about... crap, is it that she's going to go over? Going over to Space Lab. But yeah, oh yeah, while we have to go on duty, someone has to accompany Carol Marks to Space Lab. I think it should be one of us. Good gods. Jim isn't going to let anybody go down there. Because he's like, I saw what happened to her friends. There is no way she can see that. Like, he is ready to jump up, run to the transporter, and go there and prevent her from coming. But it's already taken care of. I've seen what happened to Carol Marks' friends, Chapel saying. Letting us see it would be cruel. Oh, no, sorry, that is Bones talking. I saw the records you made. Surely you didn't think I'd take Carol into that. The violence of the murders flashed unbidden into her mind. Grissom's medical officer has already taken a team into the space station, Chris said. The casualties are in stasis. The sites are in order. The technical words made the descriptions easier to say. So fortunately that is dealt with, and so Bones is able to just rest back. So Chapel doesn't... It's like, okay, good, you can be on duty here, but you need to be resting. But she did also threaten, look, either you're going to sleep because you're taking doctor's advice, or you're going to be resting because Kirk's ordering you to be shackled to the bed or something like that. It's like... Apparently David is going to go with Carol to Space Lab, and is just mentioned that he was aware of the relationship between his mother and Vance. I know that Vance was more than just a friend to you. I know you know it. Did you think we thought we were secret lovers? She herself had thought it must be obvious to everyone because she had felt as if she were walking around in a perpetual glow. A bit like the way David and Savick looked this morning. I highlighted that mainly just as everybody knows. At least the parents do. So, yeah. No indication as to approval or disapproval. For either of them, Carol probably wouldn't know enough to disapprove, and I would like to think that Kirk would be like, look, son, this is not a bad thing. Just be aware she's Vulcan and Romulan, okay? It might get weird at times. It might get crazy at times. Now, she does seem to be very level-headed, but just seem like if you're committed to this, great. No problem. Just might get odd at times. It's like that's just... all I can imagine is how that would have to go, because he still doesn't know what a Romulan is like. What a true Romulan is, and she's controlling a lot of it, but it's just... yeah. But regardless, I do appreciate the fact that Carol is also aware, so I do wonder if there's going to be much parental prodding with that. I just, the way Carol is written in here, her character is written, and the way David's personality is as well, I could see it being in here and being rather amusing. I'm not sure who would have a discussion. Oh, actually, no, I could see it being Carol talks to Saavik about it. That's like, woman to woman kind of thing. It's like human woman to Vulcan Romulan hybrid woman. That might actually be more interesting. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. That covers it. So yeah, see you next time.